This video is going to cover how to apply mastic over the top of an expansion joint. So expansion joints are used in between concrete, usually between concrete and more concrete or some other paving material. And the reason expansion joints are used is to act as a cushion. So what you're looking at here is a polyvoid material. It's a piece of neoprene or sponge, and what it does is it takes up space, and as the concrete expands and contracts with the temperature and so forth, that sponge fills the void and acts as a shock absorber of sorts. But that way there's not just air in there, and there's not a pressure buildup between the two different planes of concrete. So what you're looking at here is a void that's ready to be filled with mastic. There's a polyvoid strip. The top half inch or so, actually about a 3/4 to an inch, has been torn away. And here you see the worker. He's going in and he's dropping the level of that polyvoid sponge material down to about an inch below the top of the paving. And you'll see in a moment what he's doing is he's creating room for the mastic material, which is the caulking of sorts, and also some sand that's going to act as a filler and a buffer above the polyvoid. So this is a joint. We're just wanting to show you the before picture because this is at the end of the video. You're going to see that this has the applied mastic over the top, and here you're seeing pre-mastic. So the polyvoid, there's the top of it. There's about an inch down to the top of it right now, and we'll be applying sand over the top and then the mastic in just a moment. So here's a joint that's all been prepared. It's ready to go and ready for the sand that he's going to apply over the top. So once you get the preparation done and the two materials, in this case you've got stone on one side and you've got city sidewalk on the other. You want to make sure that both of those materials are clean so that when the mastic is applied, there's a good bond between the mastic and the material. If you don't get a good bond, it's just like paint. You're going to have peeling or separation, and you'll see a gap form in between the two materials. So here you can see he's applied the sand. He's left about a half-inch void, and the half-inch, so there's sand on top of the polyvoid now, and then he's left about a half-inch. Here's the other one between the aggregate concrete and the stone band on the edge there. So that's all ready for the mastic material. So the other thing again to be clear on is make sure those sides that are still exposed are clean. Go through and make sure you don't have any dust or anything on them, because if you don't get a good bond, you're going to have a problem. So the material this one's using is Deco Seal, and that's a name brand. There are other brands on the market, but this is one that most of the contractors I work with use to perform the mastic that you're going to see. So he's following the instructions. This comes as a packet. There's a couple of different things he mixes together, so he's following the instructions of the Deco Seal. By the way, this comes in a couple of different colors depending on the concrete you're bonding to or whatever paving material you're using. You can pick the right color that goes with what you're up to. We're using a gray here. It's just a standard gray because the rock and the concrete we're bonding to is in the gray range. He's done the mixing, he's put it into the applicator bottle, and now he's cut the tip wide so that he can apply that. That joint, by the way, the width on this, you can buy different widths for your polyvoid. This one that we're looking at here is about a half-inch wide, just so you know. So now he's applying the mastic, and you'll see that it's fairly viscous, it's liquidy, and so once he puts it into the groove, it finds a nice level all on its own because of the viscosity that it was mixed at. That said, this stuff does not stay this soft for very long. I found that after about a half hour it was starting to set up pretty good. So you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. He's going to be applying sand to the top of this shortly, and you don't want to do the whole job and then come back and start trying to add the sand. The sand will not settle down into the mastic very well if you let it get too stiffened up. So make sure that you don't work too far ahead of yourself and before you start applying the sand that you're going to see in just a moment. So here he's applying it over the top of the mastic. He's got it to the right level. We want it a little lower than the top of the paving. And now he's coming back with his sand and adding that to the top of the mastic. So see how gray the mastic is until he adds the sand. You're going to be a bit surprised by how it changes color by adding this light tan sand to the top. And that's one of the strategies. What we're trying to do is give the appearance that this is a mortar joint and it's just part of the job. So you can see here, this has been about an hour, by the way. This is stiffened up quite a bit, and you see how the sand gives it the texture of a mortar joint like you would find between two stones. Just like sandy mortar joint. So here I'm touching it. See how firm it is already? That's an hour later. It's probably about an 80-degree day. So sets up pretty quickly, and that's very important to understand. So that's really it. You see how it's flushed out. It looks a lot like one of the mortar joints. The color is similar to the rock as well as the concrete. Now, see, as you walk up on this, this is not as, when you first saw it without sand on it, it looked pretty bad. It was that very basic gray. And sometimes you see these mastic joints where they haven't applied the sand. I just think that's a mistake. And also dirt and other things will stick to the top of it. So you may as well apply some sand to give it the texture you want, and make sure that what's bonding to that mastic is something you've decided upon and not kind of left it to chance. It looks a lot less like bubble gum, by the way. So that's it. That is the gray mastic applied to a concrete and stone job, and we see it right there. I also wanted to show you a job that's 5 years old. This is around my swimming pool and also done with a different color. This is the tan, and same approach was done. They put the mastic down, they put sand over it. You can also see how things are starting to twist. There's a little bulging here. You're seeing bulges, not cracks, and that shows you how the concrete is expanding and contracting, and the mastic continues to flex with it even after 5 years. Sometimes this will get brittle. I would say most of this should last 5 to 10 years, and then you may need to come back in and patch or replace it if it gets too brittle and it stops sealing that joint. You don't want water to get in between these two pieces of paving, because otherwise you get moisture under your paving, and that can cause lifting. One more thing about mastic, this stuff is very, very sticky and very hard to clean up. If you get it in the wrong place, you're going to regret it. So I just wanted to be very clear. Be careful when you're applying this. Do not over apply it, and don't get it on surrounding areas because it's very hard to get off. I'm not even certain about solvents in terms of removing this. I've just been told by numerous contractors that it's a nightmare to get off, so just be very careful in the application. Don't get sloppy with it, and because the mistake is a hard one to fix. So that is applying mastic to the top of an expansion joint. I hope that helps, and good luck with your project.